and welcome back to the Travel Mug podcast. Something I've been thinking a lot about recently is solo travel and whether or not I would actually venture out alone. I'm pretty extroverted. I definitely prefer to be traveling with others. However, I was thinking that group travel might be a cool way to travel alone, but also with other people, you know? So this week, I'm excited to chat with Sandra from Origin Travel, a small group travel company specializing in creating immersive travel experiences for busy professionals like ourselves who want to make their most of their limited vacation days. And that is definitely me, right? Welcome, Sandra, to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, first and foremost, tell us, how did Origin Travel come to be and what was the why behind it?
So, the founder, her name is Britch, who is my really good friend, started the company in 2018 after she had graduated university, gone on that quintessential Southeast Asia backpacking trip,
Mm.
and realized that the most memorable parts of the trip were the ones that were the local, immersive, boots on the ground experiences. And when she got home, she started working for one of the big corporate giants in travel in Toronto and felt like there was something in the market that was missing and that everything positioned to the woman solo traveler in the scenario of group trips was targeted towards those high-end luxury yoga Instagrammable type of experiences. And there
Mhm.
wasn't much market was that had those, let's say, backpacking, authentic type boots on the ground type experiences. So she dreamed up this baby, Origin Travels, and a year later, I met her when I was looking for camping trips to do. Actually, back in the day when I don't know if you ever used Meetup, the app where you could kind of search your interests. I feel like it's died now, but you could search things that you wanted to do with other people. And I was looking for camping trips to do and found her running these women in the wilderness trips up to Madoga, up just north of Toronto. And messaged her, really loved the branding and her website and everything you're doing. And it happened to also be something to do in social media. I was just had finished a job and was like, I need this, I need something. And we want to slide into her DM, see if she needed somebody to do her social media. Or she was like, I was literally going to post something tomorrow. So let's grab went and we grabbed coffee, we started chatting, we were reconnected on the vision for the company and what she wanted to do with it. And I ended up doing India with her, did the wilderness trip, started working with her kind of on like a freelance part-time basis. And well, I mean, then COVID hit. So we are began able to run any trips for like 2 years. And once that settled down and travel kind of came back as an option, she was working for personal reasons to back in the company and asked me to take over. I said no, because it yep, do that. Or like, absolutely. Or I can take on that role and do it. And then she asked me another year later with like, you're right to take it because you understand the brand, you'll keep the company going in the same direction. And so I took it last year. So now we're in year number two out of Origin Travel. And I've pivoted the brand a little bit in with, like you said, young professionals who want to make the most of their vacation days, make the most of traveling in between their 9 to 5. I kind of got inspired by that through people on Instagram over COVID posting that you have to quit your job and live in a van to travel the world.
Mhm.
And it's just not feasible for many people. And I thought there's actually really great ways of traveling that don't require you to quit your stable income job and build out a van and drive around. So that's kind of what inspired that. And also I come from a corporate background and always felt like I didn't have enough vacation days. So it's like the ones that I do have, how can I make it work? How can I do as much as I possibly can with them?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I think, Jen and I both feel that in terms of, like, really making those vacation days matter, and it leads sometimes, I think, to a little bit of desperation because when you're actually out there in the world and trying to vacation and you're just like, "I only have just so much time," and I think that can sometimes cause a little stress, but I also think too, if you have something that's arranged for you or you're part of a travel group, it can really even take some of that stress away. And I know you mentioned
Yeah.
this is for sort of younger professionals, 9 to 5, but how do people really say, like, how do I know Origin Travels is right for what I'm looking for? How do you think people sort of come to that conclusion or find you?
Well, so far because we're at a small scale and it's a small company, it's just me. Everybody that's booked a trip has always had a one-on-one conversation with me. So I think they ask a lot of questions about the different types of experiences that are included in the itinerary. They kind of sort out. Some people are hesitant if they're introverted, but we actually get a lot of people who are introverted, and keeping the group small makes it a lot more approachable for people who are a little bit more shy because you're in a smaller group. You get to know everybody on a deeper level and on like a one-on-one level. There are departures that are women only. So for women who are looking to travel with other women, they feel more connected to that. And I guess the best way that I can describe it is the people who come on the trips are curious, open-minded, adventurous, open to adventure, or open to new experiences. And people who ask me about the age, most people who come are in there, I wanna say, like, 26 to 45, let's say, is, like, the general age range. So young professionals in their 30s, I guess, would be the general description, but there's no real age limit. So sometimes we'll have somebody, like a mom or a grandma join, and they add such a nice wholesome energy to it. And when they ask me if they're too old or if somebody asks me if they're too young, I tell them, when you look at the itinerary, like, are you drawn to it? Do you want to do this? Is this something that you are wanting to explore? And if they say yes, then I think they'll fit in. So it's more about like the experiences that you're looking for and having an open mind to meeting other people and being flexible. You're traveling with people you don't know. So you have to be open-minded to learning about where they come from and your difference in their culture and different travel styles potentially. But yeah, so that's kind of the best way I can describe it, which also just brings out like the best people because everyone's so like excited to they're happy to be on the trip and excited to meet new people and make new friends. So they come with a really open mind and an open heart, and it brings out people who have like a lust for life, if that makes sense, want to live their best life.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that you're right. Like the type of people who sign up for these trips are all going to have something in common, which is like the love of experiencing new things and like going to see something new. And so I can imagine that people probably make like a lot of friends and like stay in touch after the group trips, which is like probably really cool. How many people are typically on a group trip with Origin Travels?
10 to 12 would be like max. So anywhere between
Okay.
4 to 10 is like the typical range. And
Okay.
reason for that is it feels like a group of friends traveling. Anything more than 12 is chaotic. People naturally split off and get cliquey. It's not a bad thing, but it does change the group dynamic a little bit when natural cliques form in bigger groups. So I find this like the sweet spot number of there's enough different personalities to create a really cool group dynamic, but there's not too many. And you have the opportunity to have dinner sitting at one table for the most part. And the other factor determining it is we book a lot of local experiences, like having dinner at a local's home and things like that. So we can't bring groups of like bus loads of 20 people into well, that and I keep them small.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think you're exactly right. Like, there is a fine line between too few, just enough, and too many. And I can totally see what you're saying in terms of like that larger group does give a lot of opportunity for people to break free and sort of form little groups of 3 and 4. So I think, that's human nature, and not that that's a bad thing, but also
Mhm.
it's sort of not the point. Like, the point is to experience this adventure sort of in that group dynamic, which I think is a really special thing as well. And I know that you have different types of tours, but let's talk typical for a moment. So what is typically included in the tours? What's excluded? And is it customizable at all? How does that actually piece of it work if it's not a private group, but just one of
Yeah.
your offered tours? What does that look like?
So generally, along with that 9 to 5 sitting into your vacation days theme, the trips are around 7 to 8 days as the core, and then you can add on 3 to 4 day extensions. That if you have the time and the budget, you can. If not, do so. Rental that way. Most of the trips you can upgrade to a private room, and then in keeping with being accessible, we also have some activities that are add-ons. So things that are generally a little bit more expensive, we'll do it as an add-on. So you can decide if it fits within their budget or not. So something like the hot air balloon ride in Egypt is a bit of a more expensive experience. So for people who want to do it, they can add it on. If they don't want to do it, they don't have to add it on. So we customize in that way. Generally, what's included is your accommodations, your transport throughout the trip, airport pickup and drop off, and most usually all breakfasts and then some special dinners and lunches depending on the activities, and then activities that are in the itinerary. So pretty robust, but still with flexibility and free time so people can explore on their own, or if there's something they really wanted to do but it's not included in the itinerary, they have time to do it. And a guide, a local guide. So it depends on the trip. Sometimes you have one guide, like in Egypt, you'll have one guide for the duration of the trip who's with you through the entire thing. And then for other ones, like in Peru, the regions are all very different. So we have like a different local guide for each spot that you visit, and they're specialized in what they're doing in that region. Like somebody from Machu Picchu is specialized and trained in that. So it would be a different guide.
One thing you didn't mention is flights. So do people have to book their own? And if you did, I apologize. I might have missed that, but
Okay. That's actually a very common question, so I'm glad you asked. When it's internal, when we're flying somewhere in the itinerary, then I will take care of that. If it's when it's external, so your flight to the place and home from the place is not included because the prices are very dynamic and it makes a huge difference when you book. And I have people from everywhere coming, so I can't predict how much to include in the cost when someone's coming from Toronto or from the US or from Europe. So then I do help people though if they're struggling with finding a good flight, or if they want to add on, like, let's say they're going to Europe and they were like, oh, well, since I'm going, maybe I want like 2 nights somewhere else. Like, what makes sense for me to fly into? I get them, but their response.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and it's nice that you can also kind of help guide them along the way, especially if it's someone who's doing this as sort of a first trip or kind of like dipping their toe in international travel, because as you're talking, I'm thinking this is such a great idea for people who don't know where to start, is you can book these types of trips, and, like, the big scary things for me are, like, accommodations and getting around. Like, that is one of the hardest things to plan, and then when you have someone kind of helping you or planning that for you, it makes it so much easier, and then you don't have to be so stressed about planning your trip, because who wants to be stressed doing something so fun?
You can just turn your vacation brain on right away.
Yeah.
Like, now with the internet, I feel like it's gone kind of through a wave of like people weren't using travel agents for a long time, or like travel groups, things like that, because the internet came into play and you're like, oh, I can just book my own trip. I can plan my own trip. But now that there's just so much noise, I don't plan my trips on Google or ChatGPT because you're just getting these surface level answers with like different information. You don't know what's true. You don't know what's actually good, what's not good. I work with locals, so they help kind of sift through that noise and take out those really good experiences and eliminate decision fatigues. Like when you're planning your own trip, every time I've done it, I'm like, what? How do I choose? I have this many days. Like, what do I do?
Yeah. Yeah, you can get lost in the internet, like, and we always tell people to, like, read reviews, and, like,
Yeah,
yes, you should read reviews, but by the time you're reading your, like, 200th review, your eyes are just, like, glazing over. Like,
agreed. And the thing with reviews is sometimes you really have to weed through, is this a legitimate review or is this a fake review? Like it makes it difficult. And you're exactly right, Sandra. I think we've all sort of, not all, but I said a lot of people have come back around looking for that human touch in terms of planning their travel. The internet, you're exactly right. It's a lot. And especially since we started this podcast, I've even sort of reverted back for some of our trips especially like south and stuff, to sort of like
yeah.
book it through someone else who has the experience and recommendations. And I think that that makes a big difference.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And
For
reviews, I think,
mhm.
are also interesting because but maybe not everybody, but a bit of a negative bias, I think. Like anytime you've had a bad customer service experience or experience with something, I feel like that's when you're fired up to write that review. But when you have a good
Yeah.
experience, you're like, wow, that was fantastic. And you don't go home and write a review usually. I try
No.
to for
Mhm.
this because I know how important
Yeah.
it's and I think everyone should do that. But most people are just like they had a great experience, they loved it, maybe they tell their friends, but they're not really seeking to go write that review.
Yeah, for sure. So, a good reminder, everyone out there, when you have a good experience, write a nice Google review because it helps.
What this is.
Or, Sandra, for you personally, what are some of your favorite trips that you've been on with Origin Travel?
It's such a hard question.
You can tell us about all of them if you want. Yeah.
Well, I have to say Egypt is definitely up there because it was the first international trip that I ran after taking over the company. And it was just like from a business perspective, it ran so smoothly. My local contact were everything right, exactly what I wanted to have the experience be. He nailed it. The guide was amazing. The group dynamic was just like unmatched. We actually just, this trip was last November and we just had a reunion camping trip where everyone that could make it came and we went to Algonquin. So everyone's like seeing how to do it. Was just like, it was perfect in every aspect from both like a personal perspective for me and from a business perspective. And then my Caribbean New Year's trip last year, because it was kind of like I don't want to be in Toronto for New Year's. I love being Caribbean. Let me see if there are people out there who want to do it. Like it wasn't even really officially a business trip. I didn't put it on my website. And it was so fun. Everybody had a blast. A couple of the people who came here are coming on this year's trip. It's New Island, so they can go somewhere else. We definitely that one. And then this year, well, we had Nicaragua and Costa Rica, which were both women-only trips, and the vibes of women only are just unmatched. And you're in nature for a week. It's what your soul needs. You have an equal amount of relaxing and adventure. You're in the ocean. You're under the sun. Like it's just what your soul needs. Some girl time, some good conversation. um,
What?
so those are probably the one.
Do you have your 2025 destinations planned out yet, or when would that be released for people?
They will be coming soon. I have a couple of them at, but they're not fully ready yet. But we have Morocco, Egypt, and Jordan. And then just working on, I've been teasing it, but the official itinerary is still finalizing. But Madeira in the summer, which
Oh,
this is
nice.
everybody, the year to go because this place is going to blow up in the coming years. It's already this year, but it's still a little under the radar. So I was like, I must go next year.
Well,
And then we're looking at launching like a couple of detour trips, so shorter ones that are, well, first of all, less expensive than a 7 or 8 day trip. Like we're looking at 4 days, somewhere that's an easy flight from most cities in North America. And just to give people an opportunity to either add it on to a trip that they're doing if they ever wanted to try a group trip but don't want to commit to a longer time, or they don't have vacation days, or maybe they just have like a couple of vacation days left and they don't know what to do with them and want to test it out. So a little bit of like an intro to me, to group travel, to origin travel, making it a little bit more accessible. So I'm gonna test that out, see how the shorter trips do, if that's something people are interested in.
That sounds
yeah.
exciting. And I think that that's a great way to sort of introduce people to it. One thing you've mentioned and your website also discusses is working with local merchants, artisans, chefs, etc. So how was this network built for you to be able to give your travelers a more authentic experience while supporting locals? We've talked about that a ton on this podcast. It's something that I think is so important. So how did you know who to trust? Like how have you built this network of people that you do have, however many that might be?
Yes. So there's a few to this. One is my own travel experiences. I've been prioritizing it since I was like 40 years old, used all my time to go in the world, putting all my money into it. And have built out like a personal network that way. It's been supporting local and like seeking out those local communities to support has always been something that wanted to do. I've always been looking for like locally owned restaurants and all of those types of places, asking people when I'm there, like asking the who's working at the hostel, like, do you know a place that I can go for this? Asking any kind of service, people are always happy to give you. Even your restaurant server is like, yeah, I know, like my friend owns this bar. You should go check it out. They got the best whatever. So in that way it was one layer. And I've kept like journals from all my travels since I was like 20 years old, which is like 10 years old. That's well, I've got pages and pages of journals with like notes from all the places that I've been. And then the second layer is Britt, who founded the company, was working at this big company who contracts locals in different destinations, and she was going to different events, meeting people locally, and built relationships with them. So she's worked with them prior, knows the services they deliver. So that's also how I choose destinations based on where we have those really good contacts. And then since going into travel like more formally, there's opportunities in the trade world of attending conferences and events. Sometimes tourism boards put on trips that they invite a hosted buyer to and or hosted journalists, and they put on the experiences and connect you with those locals. So you experience the service and the accommodations before and discover whether it's something that people would want to do, like people that my travelers would want to do. So I'll experience it first in that way, and then if it's something that aligns, then I can use it when I'm booking trips. So there are a few ways.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. It's nice that, they've been kind of, like, tested before. Yeah. And I wanted to ask, so if you love an itinerary that, you have put together, do you also offer, like, private trips as well, where you kind of help people book privately instead of group travel?
Yeah, any of the trips that you see, I have like two sections of the website. One is group trips. So any of those can be customized for your dates and your budget and your interests for your group. And then I also have like a destination inspiration, listing some other places that we're not currently running group trips to, but that I have itineraries for and contacts for. And those are just some of them. And we have others that just haven't had the capacity to upload every single location on the website. Where I encourage people to read there's somewhere that they wanna go, I can go beyond what's given there. Those are just kinda samples. So, we worked with a lot of yoga instructors and Pilates instructors who have done those types of trips. They've worked with, like, coaches who were different types of personal, development retreats. We've done just private groups of, like, women who wanna go with their friends and don't wanna organize it themselves. We've done corporate retreat, corporate offsites, and something that I just wanna get more into this year as well is, milestone trips. So, besides honeymoons, we all know that's that's a occasion for traveling, but, divorce trips, like, what's better than getting a group of friends together and going on a trip after your divorce? That's the way to
Yeah.
get
Revenge travel.
Yeah.
away get away from it all, a change of scenery, do your best, go somewhere where
Yeah.
there's women that exist.
Mm.
So fun apples. Well, that's really great.
That's really good to know too. Like, so do you, off topic just for a second, do you have a preference in planning? So do you prefer to plan sort of like those private trips for other people or the ones that maybe you're going to attend for those smaller groups? Do you have a preference?
Well, so the group trips are for me, like personally, really fulfilling. And I love taking people to these places. And when they reach out to me after and tell me that the trip changed their life or changed them in some way and like inspired them to travel more, like that for me, it keeps me going through the long days of laptop time. But from a business perspective, the private trips are obviously better because it's less sales and marketing and I don't have a ton of capacity because it's just me. So when somebody comes to me with a full group already ready to travel and they're looking for the logistics to be handled, then that takes out that sales marketing piece for me. So and I can
Right.
work on kind of stuff instead.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. So two different sides to that coin for sure. We know a lot of your tours include outdoor adventures or off the beaten path. Is there a time where this has been disrupted by like a major weather event or some type of other happening that you sort of didn't see coming on a group trip?
Not too crazy that we haven't been able to resolve, like, sometimes it'll be too hot for a hot air balloon ride in India, for example, to, like, switch the day, or Costa Rica's always, like I tell people before they even go, I'm like, "This itinerary, you're gonna get all the experiences. I don't know what order they're gonna be in because it depends on, like, the tides and the moon and, like, so many outdoor I have no control over, but we're gonna do all of it, just don't know what when." So, you know, but those are kind of the major ones, and, I mean, last year when I launched Egypt in, I think, June or July of last year, there was so much excitement about it, and people were so stoked on going to Egypt, and then we all know what happened a few months later in October, and for
Mhm.
Canadians with the visas in September, so it was, like, 2
Mhm.
back-to-back horrible events, and obviously had a bunch of people canceling, don't blame them, you don't wanna go somewhere you feel unsafe, so or that it's a hassle to get your, visa to get in, so that was a great way for me to start my group travel venture with a huge, obstacle, but yeah, that I guess that would be probably the biggest one of things
Yeah.
Yeah.
career related. I guess those are more human related, but nevertheless, something I can't control.
You laugh.
For
So, before we finish up, what do you think that people should really consider before choosing to go on a group trip?
I think they should consider their understanding that there is an element of needing to be able to go with the flow, like things when you're traveling generally, like things can go wrong, things change. You're traveling with other people. You have to be open to people coming from different backgrounds and maybe different lifestyles than you and being open to getting to know them and not judging them. Um, which it always works out well and everyone gets along. And it's actually very magical to see people who are like, these are people I never would have met in real life or like never would have, these aren't like people that I would have been friends with because I just wouldn't have come across them in my circles. And it's nice to get out of your comfort zone. Um, Being open to getting out of your comfort zone because it is terrifying, absolutely terrifying to go to a country you've never been to before with a group of people you've never met before. And I completely empathize with that. So I I seem confident and all put together, but it is terrifying. And the first one that I did with Origin was India, and I was so scared. I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know these people. Like, what if they hate me? What if this is horrible? So I know all of those thoughts are running through your head when you book and I understand. And I think reading the itinerary and really and asking questions if you're unsure about something, but just really understanding what you're getting yourself into, what level of activity and fitness and pace is required. Egypt, for example, is a busy trip. It is go, go, go. So if you're looking for a relaxing beach vacation, that's not it. So kind of understanding like what the trip is. And then the other piece, I mean, what makes these trips very special, but maybe a little bit more difficult for people are the off the beaten path places is you can't you can't expect the level of service that you would get in North America. Sometimes the accommodations are maybe more basic than what you were expecting, or the service is slower, like in the Caribbean. Our group was like, yeah, they haven't come around to give you a second drink, but that's just service there. And it's different than what we get in North America. So being open to that and being empathetic and just appreciating that you're in somebody else's country and it's not going to be the way that you're used to at home. But that's the beauty of it is you're going somewhere else to experience what they have to offer and not to just move your life somewhere else for a week. So, but that is definitely something to consider and make sure that you're open to it and comfortable with it.
Yes.
Definitely. I think that's really, really good advice. So, we've probably piqued a lot of interest out there. So, where can people find out more information about Origin Travels, social media, website, etc.? Mention it here, of course, but we'll make sure also to link that in the show notes as well. But where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, which is origin-travels.com, Instagram at origin travels. I am on TikTok, but like not good on TikTok, so you don't have to look for me there. Um, Also Origin Travels trips, so all the socials and my email, team@origintravels.com. Always happy to chat with people before we book, have a poll if what makes them feel more comfortable, get to know me, get to know who you're getting yourself into and what you're like, and always think about travel. And sure, we're trying to speak of talking about it with me. So I'm happy to help people in this community who want to talk about it.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Sandra, for joining us this week. It was fascinating to learn about your business, and it's exciting to hear. It's definitely picking up steam. 2025 sounds like you have some great trips on the horizon for sure. And that's all we have this week. Thank you so much for listening to the Travel Log Podcast. As always, you can find us on our website at travellogpodcast.com, on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube at Travelug Podcast. And you can support the show through Buy Me a Coffee. Link is in the show notes. Please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and sharing the show with a travel loving pal would be most beneficial. So until next time, everyone, bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.